Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is. Welcome to Two Marine Dads podcast with myself, Tyler, and
John Doerr.
John, if he kind of cut out there a little bit. But uh, back to our weekly podcast. What is this, episode 10? We're officially into
Yeah,
double digits now.
we
Uh,
are doing this for 10 weeks.
we are going to dive into the current events, kind of give our takes on them, talk about some of the stuff that scares. I think scare is a good word. Some of the stuff that makes us sad. Um, Scares me for the future, and things that we're worried about, things that we're going to see coming, and things that we're not too. There's some stuff that people are spooled up over that there's honestly nothing to worry about, and then there's some things that people are completely ignoring that are going to change the way the country works drastically in the next year to 2 years. So without further ado, I suppose we'll dive right in, talking about the current state of discourse in this country, uh, and how dissenting opinions, and we kind of called this last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it
Yeah,
was, this whole insurrection, invasion of the Congress, a couple of dudes breaking windows, whatever, however you want to term what happened at the Capitol building, how that was going to be used as a weapon and a cudgel against anybody who had dissenting viewpoints, and it's turned into that, 100%.
yep.
You've got Congress women, congressmen, Congress Z's or whatever. I don't know if there's any I don't know if anybody in Congress is called by a special adjective or not, but um,
Sure they are.
calling for the expulsion of their fellow Congresspeople, uh, to have them removed from Congress. And coincidentally, it's kind of odd, but they're only all Republicans. Ted
Yeah,
Cruz is they're telling Ted Cruz he needs to resign, all this other stuff, and it's done through this equation of, because you agreed that the election had some funny business with it, or you saw some funny business and you wanted some answers, all of a sudden you're an insurrectionist. You're a white supremacist.
white
I'm
supremacist, insurrectionist.
trying to think of some of the other terms they've used. Nobody's called anybody a
Oh yeah,
shaman yet.
Trump,
Nobody's
Trump
called any.
loyalist.
There's literally a shaman in the crowd, and nobody's been called a shamanist or whatever yet.
We'll invent that word.
That 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 guy obviously failed at his mission. The Dark Wizards have altered the timeline.
I think Nancy Pelosi, she's definitely got to be a dark wizard.
Did you
Definitely.
did you see that? If anybody hasn't seen the interview with that guy that had the fucking fur jacket on and the horns that he gave, I don't know if it was ABC or CNN. It was one of the major news. They did an interview with that guy, and oh my god,
Interesting human being.
like he was like, man, this guy kind of looks badass. He's kind of got like this Braveheart thing going on. The horns are a little off, but and then you listen to him talk, and you're like,
Yeah. Then he
oh,
opens his mouth. Yeah.
oh, okay. You're not just there for fun. You really think you're, supposed to be here to do something. Um, and the funny thing, the guy ended up getting fucking arrested too, like
Yeah.
along with a bunch of, and basically everybody. They're hunting these people down, and rightfully so. If you broke into the fucking Capitol building, especially if you damaged stuff, it's time you're gonna get your
Gold.
ass arrested, and they're
Yeah.
hunting
Yeah.
them down. I didn't read the whole article. I saw a headline, so I don't. I hate to say this because I just saw the headline. I didn't actually look at the article, but the chick that stole Nancy Pelosi's laptop was trying to sell it to Russia or something. Was a headline I saw. I didn't read the article, so I don't know how much truth there is to it. But it's like, I mean,
I
what's on
didn't see
Nancy
that.
Pelosi's fucking laptop? Her favorite ice cream out of her two fridges? I can't imagine that lady's got a. I mean, in seriousness, she's the leader of the house, but
She's probably pretty good at keeping important stuff off of there. I'd imagine at this point in her career.
it's got to be encrypted. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I,
All
I
that.
I might be giving too much credit to some of these people. There was a guy giving an interview once, and his dad was a congressman from he was in California, and his dad was a congressman in the United States House, in the mid 2000s, and his dad just a regular businessman. He only did one term. He ran once, did his thing, and he said, "I'm done with this." But he said he's like a lot of people don't understand how stupid many of the people in Congress are. He's like, it's not like I'm not even trying to be mean. The people that are in the House of Representatives are dumb. and I always think about that whenever I hear some of these people talking about, and you can see it
Yeah,
too because they'll talk about stuff, and you're like, okay, is that just political slant? Like, is he just saying that because it's talking points and he
he's
has to
being
do it,
legit.
or does he actually?
Now, I can look it up. I want to try to find the guy. I'll look it up for you after this. But he he's a congressman from here, from California, and he was in a back and forth with a reporter, and she's like, "Well, don't you think, you know, California's on the cutting edge of technology?" And he goes, "California is on the cutting edge of stupidity. Make no mistake."
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that was like a huge story that a guy from his own state representative, he's making that
Well, I mean,
point.
we joke about it all the time, and you see
Well,
these people like Maxine Waters. Was it? No, it wasn't Maxine Waters. It was the chick.
sometimes we disagree. Like,
It
go
the
ahead.
the lady in Texas. I can't remember what her name is. Sheila Jackson Lee. Was looking at the
Steal
Mars.
him.
They were watching the Mars rover because she was the ranking committee member in charge of NASA. So she's not like on. She's not just not only is she not on the committee, she's in charge of the goddamn committee. And this
Money.
is years ago.
Yep.
This was during the opportunities and the
Yeah,
opportunity
like
rover. But
O2 or something. Yeah.
yeah, but she wanted them on NASA to drive the rover over so she could see where Neil Armstrong planted the flag, the Mars
Like,
rover.
I can't imagine being like the guy who's controlling the sticks on that robot from Houston and having to answer that. Like, ma'am, how do
Well,
I answer that? You're in charge of my promotion. You're in charge of the
it's
funding. You're in charge of everything.
it's like the
Like,
naval.
you're an idiot.
It's like they had probably had to deal with it like that naval commander that was in that congressional hearing with that guy. This guy's still a congressman too. The
Oh,
congressman, they were talking about moving the base on Guam, relocating the base from
yeah.
one spot to another, and the guy legit no shit asks, and he's not even joking. He's afraid. He asked the admiral. I believe it was an admiral. I'm pretty sure it was a Navy admiral.
It was. Yeah. It was an admiral.
Well, I'm super concerned that if we move
Hank Johnson.
we move the base over to the other side of the island, it'll be lopsided and the island might tip over.
He,
And you can
he
see
like gesticulates. He goes, flip over and
yeah,
capsize.
and you
And you're like,
and you can see the admiral like he's kind of got like this uh
what?
how do I answer this?
Without
You
missing
know,
a
so,
beat.
and he straight up was like, sir, we haven't looked into that yet, but I'm pretty sure the island of Guam is pretty stable. And like,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
even like mean, like he was like
yeah, yeah.
being totally respectful. And I'm like, how did he do that? I wouldn't,
Oh,
this is why I would never be able to be a general or anything because I'd have been like, are you fucking dumb?
idiot. But like you said, like we've we've come full. I don't want to say come full circle. We've flipped the script in our country where it used to be no matter how vile the other person was, at the end of the day, you'd be like, I really didn't like that guy or what he had to say. I completely disagree with him, but I'll respect his right to say it.
Yeah.
And today we've segued away from that concept to where at least you would listen or hear the other side to nope, the moment you open your mouth, if you got a red hat on, you're a white supremacist automatically. If
You're,
and there, how many black
your,
people
your
and
speech is
Hispanics
dangerous.
and
Your,
Asians, Indians, and all had red hats on, you're automatically just lumped into with the KKK. You're like white supremacist. You're like, why?
cause it's,
Why can't you just listen, not even change your mind, but hear what I have to say? And exactly like what you said, they call it violence. So they've taken speech. We've segued from sticks and stones may break my bones to words will never hurt me to no, sticks and stones and words are the same. Like it literally I mean listen to like the verbiage when they talk about a microaggression or
yeah,
a micro what was it? A micro assault. And it all has to be, it all surrounds verbiage that the other person's using. And it's it's really up to the person who hears it to determine whether or not they've been assaulted by my words or your words
mm-hmm.
or anybody's words. And then they have these platforms to where they can just shut the other person down. And it's like we've gotten into conversations with our liberal friends, and they make false equivalencies and compare apples to oranges and just go down these rabbit holes of just they're not even trying to like listen to what you have to say. And at a certain point, you kind of wonder if you're just casting your pearls among swine, if you're just wasting your time, because I mean they're they're not even trying to hear what you have to say,
Well, and it's
or
not
acknowledge your perspective. They just know
beyond
they're right
that.
without doing any homework.
Right, beyond that, it's not. They have no interest in. They don't have any interest in hearing what you have to say. They're You're getting the scary setup right now in society where it's acceptable to completely silence somebody because they disagree with you and
Right.
force them to follow your beliefs
Right.
because you're righteous and your ideas are right. And you can see this, and I'm not a fan of Alex Jones. I think the guy's a fucking idiot. I think he's batshit
Yeah.
crazy, and I think he's a con artist bigger than anything. I don't know that the guy's actually nuts. I think he's just a con artist.
He wants to
Personally.
sell you shit.
Right.
Yeah.
And he uses scare tactics to sell shit. That's his MO. That's
Right.
what he's done for fucking ever. But he hasn't been completely deplatformed because he's still around. You still see him show up, but he can't be on YouTube, he can't be on Facebook, he can't be on Twitter. Cable shows won't have him on anymore. And that they can make those choices they want to. They've completely deplatformed the guy, right? Thinking that they're going to silence him, and they haven't. All they've done is driven him underground, where he gets to have his discussions and his crazy talk without being with no dissenting opinion anymore. So even if you do think somebody is a bad person or a bad actor or their speech is dangerous, silencing them is not how you fix it. Absolutely not. Removing Trump from Twitter
Discourse.
doesn't make Trump less dangerous. If anything, if you see Trump as dangerous, him being off of Twitter makes him more dangerous. All these people shifted to Parler and they've tried to shut Parler down, but it looks like they might be back by the end of the week. We'll see. And I'm not gonna lie, Parler's kind of a shit show. Like, I got a Parler, like Twitter, you kind of got to dig a little to find the dirty mud. It's everywhere. Don't get me wrong, it's still all over on Twitter. But Parler, it's like, holy fuck, this is a clown show. Like, and it's because it's a new platform. It hasn't been fleshed out yet. It's what Twitter was fucking 10 years ago or whenever Twitter started. Yeah. But Parler isn't toxic. Twitter isn't toxic. The internet is toxic. Anybody who's been on any kind of platform that allows people to post through anonymity, with no actual made up name, whatever it may be, people tend to get pretty nasty because they don't have any. It's the idea that you're not going to get punched in the fucking mouth when you say something you shouldn't, like you used to in real life. You go to the bar and you say something fucking dumb, you're going to get hit in the mouth.
Go up on you, hit you with a pull cue.
Or just fucking hit you in the face. And sometimes that would be it. You'd get punched once and that was it. And you'd be like, oh, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to say anything like that ever again. And that was the end of it. It wasn't like every fight in a bar was a straight up ass beating. Half of them were just one punch wonders. And everybody was like, okay, well, this is over with. We're going to move on. And so with this whole idea that now that because we're going to silence groups of people because they're dangerous, it doesn't silence them. There's so many forums. There's so many places. And I don't mean forums in a literal sense. I guess I do. I don't know. The old school sense, if you will. There's so many places people can go to communicate and talk about some real scary shit that if it's not in the public sphere, there's nobody to challenge it. It's an echo chamber.
Right.
So
and
you end up polluting and you end up polluting more people's minds by doing that. Keeping bad ideas in the public sphere is a good thing because it allows people to discuss them and break them apart.
And you might come away with a slightly different perspective if you kind of lean into it. But even in places where you're using your real name and the person, they still I saw it this week on Facebook going back and forth. It was like I got accused of being rude or mean or something, and I was like,
you are kind of rude and mean.
Well, whatever. Perhaps just a little. But no, he was like, yeah, you're being mean. And I'm like, did you feel like I was being rude to you when we ate dinner together or when you came over to my house or whether your kids played with mine, whether, I'm the same guy. I've never been rude to you. I've never been mean to you. I've never talked bad about you. Not once, but some way, somehow, when we're talking on Facebook, I'm an asshole. And it's like, why can't you read my comments with the same inflection that I speak with? You know me personally, like we ate dinner together. We've gone to movies together. We've partied together. We've drank liquor. We've freaking broke bread in my house together. We've had swim parties for our kids. I mean, the list goes on and on. But the moment I set foot in Facebook and have a conversation with them, I'm an asshole. And then I go to another page and we're chatting back and forth about nonsense. And it's the same fucking guy. And you're like, Why is it over here when we're talking about one topic, I'm a complete dick, and over here, like, you're Mr. Macho Man, and then over here, we're friendly, and we're going back and forth. So it's like, even in areas like that where you still know the guy's name, for some reason, when someone gets behind a keyboard, they grow balls the size of, Connecticut. It's like, I don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's actually a slap in the face to the other person. Like, if you know that person and you're purposefully misjudging them on purpose in front of your other friends or whatever, like, I feel like that's a point of inflection that you should seriously look at, like, on you, the person who's doing it, not necessarily the guy who's being accused, you
Right.
know?
And the we've gotten to such a place that people take, and I do it too. We all do it, but our beliefs are so ingrained, and the discussions cut so to the cores of our beliefs in different things that when you start arguing about them, you take them personally. Both sides do.
Yeah.
For example, the government's role in our lives, right? That boils down to a very core belief of what we have as people. And some people believe the government should be there to provide, you know, everything for everybody. And
Everything.
it might be exaggerative saying that, but that, it's the government's responsibility to make sure people are taken care of if they can't take care of themselves. That might be a simpler way to put it. And I vehemently disagree with that, to
Yeah.
the point where, like, it upsets me to think that somebody feels they have the right to my stuff to help somebody else. They have the, and by
Right.
my stuff I mean my hard earned money. That they feel that they should tax me more so that they can give a service to somebody else that they deem is less fortunate, through their own personal ideologies, right? That this person deserves to be taken care of because of A, B, and C. That's their personal beliefs.
Right.
When on my end, I believe that person got where they're at through their own volition, and it's not my fucking place to take care of them unless I choose to. Unless I choose to go with my own hard money directly to them and take care of them.
Right.
And
I couldn't agree with you more.
when you
You know,
those are my beliefs, right? And right now we're at a state where the country is trying to decide what way we're going to go. And it's scary to me because I think we're going the other way. I think more and more people are being convinced that the government is there to take care of us. That's its job, which it's not. That's not how this government was set up. That's what it's turning into. That's what California has turned into. It doesn't work. I'm not even going to argue on the merits of it. I'm just talking about what people believe. That's why there's
people
that's why
really
there's a
have to hear
discussion. There's a discussion about universal health care. There's a discussion about free college. There's a discussion about, housing being a human right. All of this stuff is like the road that we have to go down for this stuff to happen is a
terrible.
it's a bad road, man, and it's gonna hurt a lot of people.
But when you
And
when you dig into people like that, you normally find one of two things, if not both. You'll find that, number one, they don't understand how money works. They don't understand how things are funded, and what taxes are for. And the other half of that coin is, you find that they're benevolent with everybody else's money, but the moment you kind of push them a little and dig a little deeper, you'll find that they want to keep every dime of theirs, and they want you to give yours away. They're benevolent with your money, not theirs.
mm-hmm.
And I think I've shown that to be the case. Like,
Well, we don't want to get
over
it.
the
We
last
don't. We
week,
don't have to get. We don't
you
have
know.
to get specific with it. But I understand what you're
But
saying
yeah,
100%. And it really sucks when you look at somebody have such a what you see. And I'm not saying, and I mean it literally like that. The way you look at it is so wrong that it hurts to look at it like that because it's just wrong. Like, it's not like, okay, we disagree politically. It's like what you're doing is wrong. Like, that is wrong. But they don't see it that way. That's not how they see it. They don't see it as wrong. And that is the problem we have as a society now, is we don't all agree on what's right and wrong anymore. we don't have core beliefs that are the same anymore. And that's why politicians are the way they are. Our politicians are just a result of what we are as a society. Politicians don't make us this way. They are made by what we have as society. And society is so pulled apart and so counter to each other in beliefs right now that that's what the politicians feed off of. That's why they're so left versus right and so polarized, is because we're polarized. Because you can go into a conversation with somebody and somebody can talk about being proud of doing something that is offensive to you. Like, I'm proud I did this action. And you're like, dude, why? You should be in fucking jail.
Right.
And it's to that level. And the other, and people.
I was going to say we flipped.
People
flipped
can
over
see. Well, people can see. It happens both directions, though, John. I guess what I'm trying to get at is trying to talk. I'm not trying to argue the merits of right or wrong right now, necessarily, because what I believe is right and wrong is not the same what the next man believes is right and wrong, and that is the problem. I'm not saying we just accept that. That's not something you can accept. You can't live in a society where groups of people have different idealisms of what's right and wrong is. You can't have a society like that. You can't. In order to have a society, you have to have basic tenets that everybody agrees on. And one of them being what's right and wrong. It can't be this kind of amorphous jelly kind of out there in the middle of nowhere, because literally people will do shit that you see as wrong, legally, morally, whatever it may be, and they rejoice in it. And all that does is drive a wedge between people, because
they've changed the definition of what it's like to be successful to kind of mean anything. So like if you work hard and they've taken the concept of work hard and reap your reward, and they've made that a negative. They're like, well, you're just doing it from a place of privilege, or you're just doing it from on the backs of your employees, or like they've taken what our country was founded on and flipped it on its head, to where some of us were raised that way, and then there's other people who went to universities or whatever, and I guess just got really kind of liberalized, and they're looking at everything that you stand for as, and everything that you've done, all your hard work and dedication. They don't count on any of that. They've taken that and made it into a negative, where you're just doing that and you've taken something away from somebody else by way of doing it.
Yeah, at best they disregard it. At worst, they make it a negative.
Yeah, they make it a negative. So like my wife was asking me this the other day. She's like, well, at what point did being self-sufficient become a cuss word? Yeah, why?
Or an insult, or an insult. Saying somebody's not self-sufficient is an insult. Well, it's kind of like, well, yeah, it is, but that's what it's supposed to be. You're supposed to want to be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And for you to be okay with not being self-sufficient is kind of worrisome.
Right. For you to just be like, yeah, like, here, let me stick my hand out to the government now, and I'm going to have them fill it.
Being proud of not being self-sufficient, basically.
Right. And that rolls into, the government's role and like in the companies. You look at big tech. I mean, Google pretty much owns everything. At what point are they not a monopoly? Even though they have
if they don't own it, they sure should have their fingers in all of it. And Amazon too. I mean, look at what happened to Parler, right? What Amazon banned Parler for, I guess what Amazon discontinued service to Parler for, happens on Twitter every second.
Right.
I mean, there's literally hashtag hang Pence.
Right.
Still there. Well, it might not be. I don't know. It was still there yesterday, I think. It might not be there anymore, but that's on Twitter. That's the Twitter is no less vile than Parler. But
right. And they didn't ban the Ayatollah. They didn't ban all these people.
Yeah, and again, I'm okay. When I argue, hey, you got rid of Trump, but Ayatollah and Maduro and Louis Farrakhan and fucking what's the the ass clown with the Nation of Islam. No, that's Farrakhan. Yeah.
Farrakhan.
I was thinking of Jeremiah Wright, but these people are all on Twitter, and they're going to ban Trump for inciting violence. And it wasn't even that. It was the possibility that his speech could lead to more violence, I think is what the technical term that Twitter used. But the Ayatollah Khomeini Kamani, whatever, the guy that's in charge right now, the
Solomon.
fucking supreme leader,
Solomon.
um, literally does it every day. He might not do it on Twitter, but he actually actively creates violence. You know, they talk about destroying Israel, all this other shit, but he's still got a Twitter account. Now, I'm not saying you need to go by any means. I'm not saying go ban Ayatollah Khomeini or fucking, you know, kick off Maduro or anything. Leave them on there
Treat
because,
everybody equal.
but no, leave them on there so that you can argue against them. So you can have that public display of information so everybody can see how fucking dumb you are. That was one of the best things about Twitter is you can see how stupid some people really are because they don't have time to think. They just post shit. And it's like, you didn't think before you talked, did you? This is really what you think. And we all know that now. And we're all better for it.
To go do your homework.
Well,
Like,
I'm just talking in general. We're better for it as a people because you understand what people, it's it's a megaphone for idiots.
Yeah.
Which is perfect because then you know who they are. You know, there's a lot of people that you might think are smart because they don't ever talk and they're dumb as fuck, but at least they're smart enough not to talk. But then there's a lot of people that are dumb that think they're smart, and thank God there's Twitter to let us know who they are. So you know that, okay, we're never going to let that guy pilot the ship because he will straight run it into a fucking rock. I mean, the best way to deal with, if you don't like Trump, if you hate Trump, the best way to deal with him is let him fucking talk. The guy is his own worst fucking enemy.
Oh, God, yeah. Wholeheartedly agree on that.
So shutting him up doesn't hurt him. It helps him. So, and the problem that I get, you know, if it was just Trump, okay, that's one thing to argue. We can argue about them silencing Trump, blah, blah, blah. But they've purged like 70 or 80,000 accounts on Twitter because they were associated with QAnon. If people are wrapped up in QAnon, let them speak so I know who they are. So that I don't want a brownie recipe from somebody who believes in QAnon because it's probably got fucking lead paint in it or something.
All of it. I mean, the stuff, how rapidly it just takes off. Like today I got a text from a guy and he's like, Trump's going to have a military coup. And it was a clip from like 2017 or something like this, where I think I sent it to you, where they were like interviewing him and he looks happy and young. He doesn't look all old like he does now. Like he's only been president for like a year or something. And I think he's talking about a strike on Iraq, you know, or ISIS or something like that. And he makes the comment, we got great military leaders. And they took that to mean like, hey, you know, on the way out the door, you know, this is what Donald Trump's going to do. He's going to take over and drop a coup. And you're like, no, this clip is old, you know? And then the other one was today was the guy being interviewed by CNN. And he misspeaks and he says something along the lines of the transition to military power is happening well, you know, in Washington, D.C. And that's all they clipped. And that went everywhere.
Right.
And it's like, see, this is happening. It's a military takeover. And you're like, he meant for security in D.C. The military is going to.
The guy was a fucking. Wasn't he a captain?
Or
was he a colonel? A major.
Yeah.
If anybody thinks a major is going to be able to stage a coup.
Right.
I mean, majors are great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the majors are bad. What I'm saying is they have absolutely no control over anything.
Right. And he misspeaks and everyone runs with it.
There's 6 guys between the major and the dudes that are going to do anything. And there's 4 dudes above the major that are in charge of the major. The guy is literally in the middle of a fucking bureaucratic shit sandwich.
Yep. Right. So, but I mean, kind of like to your point there, like how fast, you know, these QAnon idiots, you know, I mean, I'm not saying that everybody there was a QAnon guy, but like people are wanting this to be true because I think they're grasping at, they're seeing their worldview slip away a little bit and they don't know why. And then you couple that with some real world stuff like the elections being, you know, funny stuff happening in the elections and the courts kind of rejecting it because of lack of, you know, evidence, etc.
No, lack of procedure.
Or you know, procedure, in some cases.
The big one in Pennsylvania is with the election stuff that has a lot of people. This is what has everybody spooled up. Is they tried to sue before the election, and the Supreme Court said you can't sue because the election hasn't happened yet. You got to wait till after the election. So they waited. The election happened, and then they brought the suit again. And there's a specific term for that. I can't remember what it is. And then the Supreme Court goes, nope, you waited too long. And it's like, you told me to wait. And
Yeah.
that's the procedural stuff that's pissing a lot of people off, is
Right.
they're not even letting people present the evidence. In some places they are. Georgia, they presented the evidence. Georgia was, to my knowledge, Georgia has been pretty much settled. There is still some stupid shit that happened in Georgia. I'm not saying there wasn't, but on the level of
Video of it.
affecting the effect that it had on the election is in question. Pennsylvania, we don't know because nothing was looked into, nothing was talked about. Same thing with fucking Detroit. And
Yeah, I was gonna say
the
Wisconsin.
really bad thing about this, totally decide the it could have had no effect on the election. Everything could have been legit, but the fact that the way the Democrats went about it, the local Democrats, the state Democrats, basically pushing it under the rug and not dealing with it, all it did was erode people's faith in the election system.
Which had been
So
happening for the last 4
so
years. Yeah.
now when a Republican wins, 60-70% of Democrats think the election was stolen. And when a Democrat wins, 60 or 70% of Republicans think the election was stolen. That in itself is that in itself is sickening, because it means
Yeah.
we as a population are not going to have any faith in our elections anymore.
And don't
And
believe it.
that is a fucking very, very, very dangerous place to go. Very dangerous. The things that can come out of that is just like,
Revolution.
well, and not even revolution, John, but people, once people stop feeling like they're represented by the government, they stop listening to the government.
Right.
I mean, look at
That's what I'm saying,
California. Look at California right now. I mean, I guess you could call it revolution, but it's not really. Basically, people are ignoring the lockdown orders because they're like, you're not representing us. You're doing whatever the fuck you want. You're telling us we have to stay home, but you're going to go eat a $500 a plate dinner, and have. You're going to do Christmas with your family when you told all of us we had to sit in our fucking closets.
You're gonna
That's
get your hair done and then go blame the salon owner for catching you on camera.
the
Like
that whole endeavor. The roads that come out of that place are not good for a society as a whole. You know, a I don't want to say divided society is necessarily bad, because we all have different beliefs. We all have different ways of approaching things. The idea is to come together and solve the problems we're facing in a manner that doesn't violate our own personal principles. But what has divided the country now is a fissure, dude. It's a separation. The cracks are just growing. And you can see it when you try to talk to somebody on the other side. You can't even talk to them anymore
you can't talk to him, yeah.
because they're coming from a perspective of what I'm doing isn't just right, it's moral and it's necessary. And you're looking at what they're doing as something that's reprehensible and illegal.
Yeah.
And
Oh, in some cases illegal, straight illegal. Yeah.
right, and when you have that much of a spread, and the shitty part is you have sides now, basically, instead of trying to fix this problem, they're just going to make it worse. You had CNN and I think MSNBC were talking about, how Fox and not necessarily the networks, but like the people on the networks are talking about how like Cox Cable and Verizon need to pull Fox News. You just can't have Fox News anymore because they platform dangerous. They platform conservative ideas that are dangerous. And it's like, what do you think is going to happen? It's not like 500 people voted for Trump. 75 million fucking people voted for Trump. You think they're just going to go quietly into the night? You think they're just going to roll over and let you push them and tell them what to do? Fuck no.
Plus, you should, there's the business side of that really kind of makes me scratch my head a little. Like, how do you look at? I'm sure that Twitter has stockholders and stuff like this. Like, I'm sure I don't know, are they publicly traded? I'm not even sure. But
I think Twitter is, yeah.
I know somebody owns them. Somebody has, stock in it, and you just deleted a guy who had 69 million followers.
That's because the guy that owns the company, Jack Dorsey, is a fucking scum sucker of a human being. The guy's, I'm pretty sure the guy's truly evil. Like I don't want to put analogies to certain evil people in history, but he's a pretty evil dude.
Guess I don't know enough about him to make that assertion, but I just don't understand from a business point of view why you would choose that. Like, here's a guy who's bringing you clicks, is bringing you ad revenue, and you're just like, gone. Like, what? Like, how do you look at, like, he doubled your fucking revenue anyway? So
Well,
you get rid of them.
well, here's the thing, dude. Jack Dorsey's rich enough that he doesn't need Twitter to be successful to make money. In my mind, Jack sees Twitter as a social experiment. Jack's a super lefty dude, right? Jack Dorsey, the guy that owns Twitter, he doesn't own. He runs Twitter, if you will. He's a CEO, and he almost got ousted last. It was either last year or 2 years ago. He almost got ousted because of because of the shadow banning and shit he was doing with conservatives, right? Twitter is his like little play box, his sand castle, if you will, where he gets to play around and do some crazy shit. Somebody inside Twitter leaked a call through Project Veritas about Jack Dorsey talking about Trump's just the beginning. We're really going to start controlling speech on people. And why wouldn't they now? They got the president of the United States banned, dude. They literally removed the president of the United States under what I would argue was false pretenses.
Yeah, clearly that would be the same thing. Yeah.
So when you look at the interviews Jack has given, he did one on Joe Rogan, which is kind of whatever. He argued with, he had his lawyer there, Sajim or whatever her name is, and Tim Pool argued. And they were talking about, they're so blind in their bias that they don't even see what they're doing is wrong. They see it as righteous almost. And the problem is you get one of the biggest common arguments you hear now, and it's such a shallow argument in my opinion, because it doesn't look at any of the nuances of the situation, is that, Twitter's a private platform. They can do whatever they want. The First Amendment doesn't apply to them. Okay, that is factually correct. That statement is 100% factually correct. Twitter is a private platform. The First Amendment doesn't apply to them. First Amendment's meant to apply to the government. It's a private organization. They can do whatever they want in their own little sphere.
Walk outside, say whatever you want.
The problem with that is the nuance to this situation is Twitter's a monopoly. And if you think otherwise, what happened to Parler? Where'd Parler go? Parler's no worse than Twitter. Parler has no worse shit on it than Twitter does. Parler was deleted from the face of the planet, dude. Literally deleted from the face of the planet. And on top of that, and Parler has this same protection as well. Protection might be the wrong word for it, but Section 230, what has been the big talking point, which prevents these places from being sued because they are platforms. Liable. Now, this 230 applies to newspapers too. It's not like newspapers don't have 230 protections. So, like, for example, if you go to the comments section of the Wall Street Journal, right? 230 protects Wall Street Journal from being sued for what's said in the comments. Now, they're allowed to moderate the comments, just like Twitter's allowed to moderate its comments. But at the end of the day, when you are overtly silencing one person in the public sphere, and that's the thing about these, and this is a lot of discussion. This is not something I'm solidly like, yes, Twitter is the public sphere and Facebook is the public sphere. I'm still kind of in this area where I haven't totally decided where I feel about this yet. But back in the old day, right, the public sphere was the town square. The business, there might have been businesses around the town square that owned around the town square. And in the center of the town square was usually City Hall. But you could come to town square and nobody could tell you what you were going to say and what you couldn't say. That's where you had the idiots with the signs and all the old gimmicks about, people preaching about God's going to end the world and all this stuff. That's the public sphere, right? Well, in the world we live in now, especially with the shutdowns, especially with people being forced to stay at home, the public sphere is Twitter and Facebook. So they aren't just private companies, especially because they are a monopoly. There is no competition for Twitter. You can't go reach the public somewhere like you can reach it on Twitter. Parler was getting there. Parler was exploding. But again, Parler just got deleted off the face of the earth. And I can't wait. I cannot wait to see how the lawsuit pans out, because Parler's suing the absolute dog shit out of Amazon. And Amazon's got a lot of lawyers. So this is where there's some nuance to this discussion. You can't just say Twitter's a private company. They can do whatever they want on their platform when there is no other option to go anywhere else. I mean, what is somebody going to do? They're going to go on YouTube and post a video? Can't do that, because you do it, you get deleted there too. You're going to go to Facebook? Nope, sorry. You can't say that anything. There's literally, you can't say shit on Facebook or your post gets deleted. Same thing on Twitter, right? You can't say certain things and your post gets deleted. And so where are you going to go? You're going to go stand out in front of your front porch Well, you can't reach the same number of people if and here's the deal, right? If it was if it was a matter of you saying you are uh spreading misinformation, you're not allowed to do that. We're going to delete your content. That's great, except they don't apply that across the board. The Russia hoax, you can still go on Twitter and find people talking about how Trump is a Russian agent. And he had hookers.
That.
What's that?
Yeah, he had hookers peeing on him or whatever. But I don't think it's misinformation. I think that's just a catchphrase or a word that
it is.
They made up.
Well, that's what
it's a fucking opinion. If you have an opinion,
100% true, John.
You have a wrong opinion.
100% true, John.
Spreading misinformation.
What I'm trying to do is
be shut down. You know?
Right, but what I'm trying to say, John, is even if what they're saying is false information, right? It doesn't equate because there's a lot of false information on Twitter that they don't shut down. It's a very specific sect. They're very specific.
Right.
And what's coming, I feel, and it won't happen in the next 2 years because the Republicans don't control Congress. But I think one of the things you're going to see come out, and I don't agree with it, but you're going to see Title IX get expanded to political beliefs, which is bad. Title IX should have never have expanded beyond immutable characteristics, right? Basically, you're a man, you're a woman, you're disabled, you're not disabled. That's all Title IX should have been. As soon as it started getting into protecting religion and beliefs, as soon as it got into protection beliefs, you got into this area where it broadens the box so wide that somebody can say, well, I believe in the flying spaghetti monster. You can't, that's my religion.
Right.
You know, that's the problem with that. That's the fucking super good fucking itchy nose. And so now I think what's going to happen is the next time when conservatives gain control, because they're so scared, you're going to see a push to make Title IX expanded to political beliefs, which is a fucking horrible idea.
Yeah, I got fired because I was wearing a red hat, or I got fired because I was wearing.
Well, no, that Title IX would protect that. Title IX would say you can't fire somebody because they're wearing a red hat. Well, if you're a construction company who's building a fence, and somebody who works for you shows up at a protest against that fence and damages the property, but their political beliefs are protected under Title IX, now you can't fire them. Because their political beliefs are protected under Title IX. Because you're just firing them for politics, right? Mind it, it's probably because they fucking damaged it. No, but that's what I'm getting at, John. That's the scary thing here.
Have a lawsuit against the company saying, "Hey, I got let go. Well, why'd you get let go? Well, they fired me because I had this bumper sticker that said."
And that's why it's not a good thing. Companies should be able to choose, as long as they're truly a private company. And this is the problem I have with places like Facebook and Twitter, and they're not necessarily a private company anymore, man. They are the public sphere. And again, I would love to have a debate with somebody about how they're not the public sphere and how there are legitimate options for people to go to. If that was the case, I wouldn't mind it. And that was the case for a while. There was Parler. People could go to Parler and say whatever the hell they wanted to. And the big thing about Parler was nonpartisan. It wasn't even meant for Republicans. It just, because Republicans were the primary, Republicans and conservatives and people on the right were the ones being censored and silenced. So that's where they went. Because it was free speech. And
it was guaranteed no censorship.
Parler's big thing was they weren't going to sell your data. They're not like Twitter or Facebook where they gather all this personal data on you and then sell that to marketers. And that's what they do. YouTube's the same thing. That's where they make all of their fucking money, is off of marketing. And that was Parler's deal, is we're not going to sell your information. And now it doesn't exist. Now all you have is, I mean, there's what was it? Signal, I think, got really big. Fucking Signal's owned by Twitter.
You have, exactly, monopoly. And how that, how there hasn't been a lawsuit, an antitrust, thing.
Well, they started, but it's going to go away now. The Republicans started antitrust shit against all the big tech companies, Google and Amazon and Facebook and Twitter and there's a half a dozen others that got drug in for courts over the last 8 months, and that's all going to go away. I mean, literally half of the Biden administration is people from these companies.
Right.
This cabinet, I don't know about it's going to be necessarily cabinet positions, but there's a lot of people coming in with the Biden administration that are part of the people that are just part of these companies. It's literally we're getting to be a tech oligarchy, which is horrifying.
terrible.
Especially when you've got
I,
Google openly talking about how they can sway elections if they wanted to. Or even Reddit.
right,
Reddit has even said that. They're like, yeah, if we
right,
wanted to, we could probably sway an election. We wouldn't get away with it for very long, but we could do it. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but that's Reddit. And
yeah,
and Reddit is a microcosm compared to some of these other platforms. I mean, Reddit's not tiny, but it's not like, I mean, anybody over the age, most people over the age of fucking 35 don't even know what Reddit is. I would venture. Probably maybe even like 30, 32 probably don't even know what Reddit is. They might have heard of it, but they've never been to it. They've never looked at it. They wouldn't know how to get around on it if they did. And to say that that group, for them to feel that they could sway an election, you're not a if you can sway an election, you're not a public company anymore.
right. I, who was it else? Was it Facebook or Google? I can't remember. They were all in tears after Hillary
It
lost
was
because
Google.
they put in
It was Google.
so much effort to sway it one way, and
Yeah,
then when
it
they
was Google.
lost, there was like
They had
a
a big
defeat.
they had like a big company meeting and talked about it and said, here's what we did to try to help Hillary get to win. Like literally affected Google search to try to help her win,
Yeah,
and how we can do it better next
and
time.
it didn't work.
Yeah, and
And
the discussion
I
was how
think
they could
that's
do it
the
better next
biggest
time.
right. How we can, and they spent 4 years figuring it out. Right.
Well, I don't know that the tech companies had much of a sway on the election this time. They didn't need to. The media did all of it. The media 100%. I mean, when you go look at large portions of ballots that weren't down ballot votes, they voted Republican everything else, but they voted for Biden. All that tells you is that people were uh, completely turned off of Trump. And again, the exit polls said it was COVID, right? COVID was the big one. And for them to like try to hold Trump responsible for what happened in New York, that was completely on Cuomo. Completely on Cuomo, dude. Cuomo and
Oh yeah.
fucking and De Blasio, but De Blasio doesn't even know what way fucking up and down. That guy's a fucking space cadet.
Trump gave them everything they needed, and then some.
And more
You
so.
know.
More so.
Right. Yeah.
The
Right.
Mercy ship showed up. They built tents in fucking
Yeah.
in not Times Square in Grand Central Park. They built makeshift
Right.
hotels, and
And
they
they
didn't even end up using them.
right, and they because they were that's what we were being told is, oh well, there's going to be bodies lying in the streets, and it was going to be 500,000 deaths, in the United States
Yeah,
straight away
a month.
in a month. Yeah, so everyone reacted. They were like, "Holy cow, this is real! Let's lock everything down." And and then it just as that progressed, we figured out some other stuff. But to say that Trump did a bad job, I don't know. He he did everything I think he could. You know, but
He
like
wasn't perfect. I'm not
talking
gonna. I
about
would
us,
never argue that Trump did was perfect, but it's again
nobody does.
it's part of the framing of the narrative, to make what the media has done is going to be even exemplified how much worse it is when I would be totally fine with how the media treated Trump if they would treat Biden the same way, or they
Right.
had treated Obama the same way. If they had treated Obama the same way they treated Bush, very antagonistic and fighting, because that's what they're supposed to be. But they're not. They're going to be fucking lapdogs. They're not
Oh
going to
yeah.
hold the Biden administration accountable, which means they're going to do whatever the fuck they want, and it's going
Right.
to be
And they
left
know it.
to private organizations to stand up to them, and that's where you're
Yeah.
going to see big lawsuits from places like PragerU and um, I can't remember the organization that filed a lot of the freedom of information request stuff for the Russia probe and all that kind of shit in the last couple of years. But um, that's where we're going to see this. You're not going to see the media holding Trump or Biden accountable. You'll see it from Fox News, but that's if Fox News is even allowed to stay.
Yeah,
Fucking
and same thing with podcasts too. They're targeting us. And they're targeting the big guys. Probably not us, but flatter myself there. But
well, I mean, yeah, I
you know,
mean, they're talking about conservative podcasts are just
yeah,
running rampant, and they spread toxic ideas that need to be controlled, and it's like, what toxic ideas that you need to be self-responsible, that the government shouldn't be taking money from me, you should go to church, help your community, maybe serve in the military. I mean, what are those ideas are you talking about here that are fucking toxic?
right. And well, I mean that goes back to what I was saying. Like before, you could have a wrong opinion, and now you're labeled misinformation, and they slap fact checking on you. It's like why can't you make a point how you want to make it, and let the
You
other
know what I
person
haven't
determine whether or not
I
they
have
believe it.
I've gone and looked. You know where I haven't seen any fact checking on anything about Russia collusion.
Huh.
Anything on Facebook, anything old on Facebook or on YouTube that's got all the, the fact checks that show up below it. Nothing on
Yeah.
Russian collusion. Despite the fact that there was a giant case that was determined that there was no Russia collusion, there still
Yeah, we
is
spent
there's no
millions of
fact checks
dollars.
on that. But if you even say election, like if you say the word election, Google's algorithm picks it up and goes, Biden won the election. Here's and throws the fact check underneath.
Right. I, like I said, they've taken away your free speech. Like, well, you can't just have an opinion anymore without it being shot at.
Well, and they're
And
using
then,
fact checkers that are blatantly biased, like
oh yeah,
disgustingly blatantly biased, and these guys get a
right.
pass off as fact checkers.
I saw a guy. He posted. He was like, Biden is a war hero and saved kids and made up all these degrees. He has a degree in physics and 5 degrees. Like just like posted all this stuff that was completely false about Biden. And at the bottom, he just says, "I'm only posting this to see if I get fact checked for misinformation or whatever it was." And it was just blatant lies. He saved 300 people from during the
Burning
war or
building.
whatever. Just it was, it
he
was just like
cured
over the
he
top
he
stuff.
he
And
cured polio and invented the internet.
yeah, right, and invented the internet at the same time, with one hand. So I mean, like it was just all this over the top stuff to see if they would get fact checked and nothing. You know,
No,
it was pretty interesting. But anyway, like it kind of goes to the point. Like, no, it's only one side. You know,
and
but like,
it'll be interesting to see because one thing Trump always had to do is he always knew he was going to be held account. Anything he did, he knew he was going to be called to the table and called account for, right? Um,
yeah,
so because of that, you approach things a little bit differently. And Trump was not really one to do what was politically expedient. Let's put it that way. He did whatever the fuck he wanted, right?
yeah,
Fucking,
he didn't care.
he'd burn every bridge because he didn't give a fuck. If he needed to get back across, he'd swim. Like he just didn't care.
Right.
Now that you've got Biden, who isn't going to be held accountable for anything and is going to be able to do whatever the fuck he wants, how is he going to respond to some of these events that are happening around the world? Like I don't know how serious it was, but Iran launched a missile near the Nimitz group down there. It landed like 100 miles away. So and they probably with the Aegis cruisers and shit like that, they probably knew it wasn't even. They're probably looking at it going, well, that's not even gonna get past home plate, and weren't even worried. But it makes a good news article, right? Fucking Iran launches
Right.
a missile at carrier group, and they're testing. Obviously, they're testing. They're doing shit to see how Biden's going to respond. China's saying a lot of really crazy shit as of late, and the
North
caravan. You got
Yeah.
the caravan.
Yeah.
Caravan's
Oh, yeah.
fucking talking about showing up now, and so it's going to
Yeah.
be interesting to
6,500
see
people strong.
what the responses to these are going to be because we're going to be able to disagree, right? We'll be able to say that is a really dumbass way of doing that, and we're always going to do that. We're always going to disagree with how their approach to things are. But what's going to be really interesting to see is what the media is going to do. Is the media just going to sweep it under the rug? Is it just going to ignore it? Because that's one option. They did a lot of that with Obama, like Fast and Furious, and
Oh yeah.
once it was proved that the Newtown, not the
There were
Newtown
armed
shooting,
firearms.
some of the other the cop incidences were like legit, and how it just disappeared. It just disappeared from the media. It didn't get talked about anymore. Or is it going to be like some of the other shit where they basically just straight lie for the administration, help cover it up, and promote it like it's a good thing, like they've been doing with the China policy for the last fucking 30 years, has done nothing but destroy this country. And Trump came in with a fucking brick shit house and ruined the whole China policy, and it's pissed everybody off and NATO. And so
Oh, yeah.
what's going to happen? That's what's going to be really interesting to me to watch from like an outside, knowing that there's nothing I can do to affect it, but really think about it, talk about it, maybe express my opinions on it. But what is the dynamic going to be? And at what point does something happen that's bad enough? Because it will. They're going to do something bad. And at what point are they going to go, okay, maybe we should actually ask maybe a half tough question? And like when they did that under Obama, it was, you're a racist.
Right.
They don't have that now. They can't. I mean, I guess they could with Kamala, but
With Kamala.
or
Yeah.
Kamala, fucking.
Kamala? Is it Kamala?
I don't fucking know, dude. Miss Vice President Harris, we'll say that. because
Yeah.
then he can't get in fucking
Harris.
trouble.
There we go. Can't screw up the
Um,
word Harris.
what is going to happen at that point when the line does finally get crossed and the administration does something it's not supposed to do? Because think about it, dude. Remember when Obama, they wiretapped the DOJ, fucking Eric Holder's DOJ wiretapped reporters,
Oh yeah.
Fox News reporters?
Yeah, and that's the only time they got mad.
Yeah, and they
You know,
only
or
got
one of
like,
the few times.
it was only like kind of mad, dude.
Yeah.
And I think it was like they got mad behind the scenes and were like, yo, what the fuck are you doing? We can't defend this. Stop.
Right.
This is dumb. And it wasn't like
Yeah.
they got on the news and were like, we're standing up for Fox News and reporters and the First Amendment, and blah, blah, blah. There was none of that.
Right.
And it's like, the dude just did what
And it was
the
because-
dude did the same thing
it was
fucking
because-
Nixon did.
It's because they wouldn't. I think it was they had like source confidentiality, is what it was, wasn't it? And
It had something to do with leaks.
she wouldn't tell where she got her source from.
No, that was a different. That
And
was under the.
the
That was
administration
under.
leaned on it.
You're thinking of the Clinton administration. I can't remember what her name is. She's a Fox News reporter too.
Yeah.
But aside from that, there was one that there was nothing legally happened. What ended up coming up was they had wiretaps and investigations going, and it got released. Somebody saw it and was like, "This is wrong. You can't do this." And it was just because they were there were some leaks that came out of the Obama administration about some of the stuff they were doing, and this reporter reported on it, and that's what led to it. But it just showed how it just goes to show you how horribly fucking awful and corrupt Eric Holder was. I mean, that guy is a bad man.
Oh yeah. Gotta love that. It was nice having him gone. Actually, you know, people were actually
for as much
charged
as he was gone. You know, I don't know that he was actually ever really completely gone, unfortunately.
or none. But yeah, that. Oh my god. I can't. When he said the words, when Obama said the words, the Milton Police Department acted
stupidly.
When those words uttered his mouth, came out of his mouth. I was just, my jaw was on the floor. I'm like, it's over.
How about Trayvon Martin looked like? If I had a son, he would look like Trayvon Martin. Remember that one?
Yeah, he looked like Trayvon Martin. You're like, what? You know, like it was just so over the top and so one sided. You know, it wasn't even funny.
Wait, did Obama just
and
say
you
all
wonder why
black
it was
people
still
look
on.
the same?
Right. Yeah, that would have been a good question to ask, you know, but no, you know, and all they kept saying was this president's being treated differently than any other president in history. Really? Because we just came out of 4 years of
No. We were just trying to
treatment.
hold him accountable for some of the batshit crazy shit he wanted to do.
Yeah, like you said, like Fast and Furious. You sell the cartel automatic weapons that I have to have a permit for if I want to buy one.
You know, Obama's
Give them to him.
Obama. Well, I think Trump did it too, actually. But Obama and Trump are the only two presidents to actually kill a foreign citizen or a U.S. citizen with a fucking. They killed him with drone strikes.
Huh. I knew Obama. Who did we kill? Who did this?
Not saying that Obama was necessarily wrong. There's a lot of kind of murky details on this, but basically Obama ordered a drone strike and a U.S. citizen died in the drone strike. That's kind of like, whoa, we kind of iffy legal territory there. You know, that's not like, oh, that's no big deal. That's kind of like, wait a second, you know, the whole Fourth Amendment and, you know, right to trial and, you know, all that other stuff. That just kind of went out the window and nobody talked about it, dude. And me being one of them, because when it happened, I didn't even fully understand what had happened. Because all I had seen in the media was, yo, they killed a bunch of fucking terrorists. Because that's what they did. They killed, it was somebody in Al-Qaeda that was there. And the U.S. citizen was a bystander. It wasn't the primary target, but he was there. But it's like, yo, the U.S. president just assassinated a U.S. citizen. Now, the U.S. citizen might have been a bad person, but you're still entitled to a trial and everything. You know, that's kind of how our society's built. Doesn't matter how fucking awful you are. You're still a U.S. citizen.
Right.
And there's kind of a line there. There's a line. Pretty black, Sharpie, fucking thick line.
Well, maybe they considered him a combatant at that point, or
No. It was collateral damage, dude. Straight up collateral.
So it's just dumb.
I mean, we don't know. We're not. It's all classified, dude. We're not gonna know everything about it.
There was
They
I
had
remember.
they probably knew he was there. I mean, you know how the fucking intel systems work and how the how good of surveillance they have. They probably knew who was there. The dude wasn't a good dude. He wasn't a good dude. I'm not saying this is like some college kid that was over there doing fucking, like humanitarian work. He was doing some dumb shit, but you still get a trial.
Yeah, you still have rights.
And
You have a
then
right.
at the end of the day, they did kill a really pretty nasty fucking person, a really bad dude. They got him off the face of the earth.
There was a. I remember. I had to look up the actual date, but there was a one of the Al Qaeda leaders had died, and they had like pretty much all of Al Qaeda was at his funeral, and Obama had him like dead in the rights, like he had a drone circling him, and they decided not to strike, and you're like, oh, it's religious or whatever, and you're like, you have all the bad guys in one spot, and you didn't take the shot. Like literally, one missile would have taken out the whole upper echelon of the command there, and you were just like, yeah, let it go. I mean, the guy in the casket's already dead. You know, you're not gonna kill him again. You know, but I
Yeah,
mean,
but
kind
and
of
there
I
was a
see
lot.
both
There was
sides of the coin
that
there, but
that too. There was a lot of women and children and collateral
yeah,
damage and this, that, and the other. And you know, it wasn't so much of a statement whether it was right or wrong that Obama nuked that guy and he was a U.S. citizen, but it's the idea that if if it suits a agenda right now to not talk about it, they don't. If it suits an agenda to blow it out of proportion and make it look 10 times worse than it is, that's what they do. And the
that's
challenge
what
with that
yeah.
is that's what political institutions are supposed to do, not media. The media is there to keep the government in control. The media is the first line of defense against a fucking totalitarian government. It's the first line of defense,
And they're gone. They're in allegiance now.
pretty much.
You
And the
know,
ones that
they're,
and the
they're not free.
and the ones that aren't are trying to be fucking sayonara,
Yep, getting washed out.
or just
Everyone
delete it. Just
from the
delete
top
it.
down.
Just fucking deleted.
Yeah, Control Alt Delete. You deleted the president. Now they're looking at Fox News. Now they're looking at what was the hashtag walk away movement. You
That's
know,
gone. Yeah, Facebook
yeah,
fucking. I haven't.
yeah,
I gotta go. I gotta dig into that
gone.
and see what's coming to that because I don't know if they ever even got an answer on why Facebook never even said why they deleted it. A page that's got 500,000 followers.
And there was no there. To the best of my knowledge, there wasn't any, calls for tearing down the government or anything. So
Well, even if there was, it's all over Facebook anyways. Why are you gonna pick out one group? Why is this one group get deleted when the one over here that was literally being used to organize the fucking riots in Oregon, Facebook
stays up.
page? I mean, it got
Right.
deleted too, but they're there. It's not like, okay, 500,000 people and three people do something stupid. That's actually a pretty good percentage for our country right now. 500,000 only three people do something fucking dumb, you're doing pretty good. Like that's a role model for everybody else.
That's mostly peaceful.
Yeah. Actually though, that's actually mostly peaceful
Actually,
though.
mostly peaceful.
Not the protests are mostly peaceful as there's a fucking gas station on
Yeah,
fire behind
gas
you.
station on fire. Like
All
nothing. I'll say
all
this.
I could
There was
think of when I saw that was Baghdad al Daddy or whatever that fucking guy was, fucking the propagandist when the shock and awe campaign. We're driving the Americans back. We are winning the
oh,
battle.
like no, no. You just sent a fucking carrier pigeon with your orders. You know what I mean? Like you were done. Oh, it's so insane.
All right, man. I think we
All
wrap her
right.
up there. You look
Yeah.
tired. I know I'm tired.
Oh, I've been up since 4. No, there's another 4 coming around. I better quit.
Hmm.
Like and subscribe, guys, if you like what you saw here. Leave comments. We want to hear them.
Be up on
So,
YouTube. We'll be up on Spotify, and we're putting everything up there. So